It sounds silly, but it was kind of the end of innocence when you were a kid reading about characters you loved and someone got murdered in the comics, and one of those characters dies. And it was really a new experience, for you as a kid to realize that people can die in these stories. It was a big breakthrough in comics. That was from Frank Miller's era in the 80s.
I can't hear you, Jeff. I need to be able to hear you.
This was not a big green screen movie. The budget put us in a position where we had to get as much as possible in camera. So we did a lot of wire work out on location. And that kept us from doing more visual effects than we might otherwise have probably liked to do. There are only a few occasions in the movie where Daredevil's leaping around and jumping around, where green screens were necessary.
I think the most difficult part about filming Daredevil on a day-to-day basis was what could we really do practically versus what could we do with CGI. When I started out, I wanted to have everything as realistic as possible. So that was always where we started from. So the wire work for a lot of what Daredevil does, I didn't want to have it to be Hong Kong style in that it's people bouncing on bamboo leaves and stuff. It was never meant to be that. It was more supposed to be a wire assist, just to do some extraordinary things, but still have the laws of physics, prevail. As great, as amazing as our wire team was, as amazing as the master was, and as amazing as Jeff Amata can be, it was just some things that we couldn't do, and that was really frustrating. So we actually found that by keeping things real with the wire work, we were actually servicing the story better and making it more real by using CGI. Wire work will eat up your shooting night. It can be so frustrating. And you do take after take after take, and you'll watch, in our case, not the sun go down, but the sun come up, and you realize you're running out of valuable time. We had one shot where Daredevil did a huge leap from one building to another. It was a very dangerous stunt. And rather than jumping like this, because of the nature of the wire work, he did this slide from one building to another, which is very unnatural. Of course, he would have just plummeted. That was one that we tried over and over and over for a couple nights in a row. And at the end, we never used it. We ended up using a CG character. And that, to me, was a big eye-opener. As great as wire work is, it has its limitations. And you have to know what they are, because it will really, really cost you.
3, 2, 1, go!
And action.
Everything's been on a freight train for February 14th, and so any additional photography's got to be done soon before it gets too cold for New York. It's supposed to be late summer, this movie, late summer going into fall by the end, and it's going to be winter by the time we get to New York, so.
Snap it started earlier.
Now, in your clean plate, do you have bullseye
This
in
Yeah.
it?
The
You
front
do,
head
okay.
on this? Yeah.
Oh, so you don't go all the way in
We
anymore.
had to cut it because it looked so wanky.
So,
Put
this
that
is
on the
actually
list.
this is no closer than that one where he's
It's
landing
not.
on the rooftop.
No, I
Put
know.
that on
That's
the
why I'm
list.
saying put it on the list. I can't
It's
look
just
at it
an
anymore.
addition.
I just hate it.
Yeah. Next sequence.
These pipes here, terrible paint job here, which I was guaranteed would look like hollow pipes. And as you can see, it looks like they're fighting on a giant wind chime or xylophone. I mean, how hard would it be to put black in the center of those pipes?
How many shots are like this?
Not that many. This is when you can really tell that those are solid. They were solid for the stuntmen so that they wouldn't get injured, but now you can tell that they're solid pipes, that they're not pipe organ.
I mean, I know how to do it. It just is what it will cost us.
There's one. You never really know what you have until you sit down, you watch it all, and you realize finally what you really didn't need and what you still do need. It's always sobering.
It's 3 minutes gone.
It's huge.
Something's happened to me, Dad. I don't know what it is.
I'm sorry, Maddie. I'm so sorry.
huge. If this doesn't work out, the whole movie doesn't work. If the father-son relationship doesn't work, the movie will not work. And I feel that strongly about it, so that's why we spent so much time trying to get this origin story right.
We gotta get one of these things. Do we have a Psy at the office?
They're in New York, no.
Can we request one?
I requested to keep one. I was told no.
Just tell him I really need a Psy. Tell him I'm having emotional problems with these two Psy shots, and
Rich needs a Psy for his Halloween costume.
we have a photoreal look to this movie, unlike some others. So we don't get away with anything. That's a challenge. I mean, there's always a little license paid to movies that deal with fantasy. God, that doesn't work. If you watch how it animates now, it almost looks like he's seeing it. It also looks like he's looking up at it. You know what? He shouldn't have looked up.
I know. Could have been great if he was just looking right at camera the whole time.
Yep. All right, let's do a CG head replacement.
ED 88 04 07.
Oh, that's gotta hurt. Amazing what Jennifer will do for a movie, huh? So I think everything needs to be brightened up. I think the specularity's gotta be nice and crisp, and the shinier it is, the more frightening it's going to look. We've essentially created a CG stuntman that looks like Ben. I mean, if it all looks great, but he's animated funny, doesn't work. If he's animated great, but he doesn't look real, you don't get away with that. Let's say the animation and he looks real, but the backgrounds he's being put over don't look real, you don't get away with that. So we have to nail everything on this movie. We need to work on him a bit. If I were getting pulled, if he were getting pulled, he's got to have a serious yank. He's got to have a serious yank, and then he needs to pull himself up. I'm not seeing any stress on his arm, on his shoulder. I need a prop. Let's just go forward to that frame. Just go frame by frame. If this were to be real and it was actually locked into the fan, the first thing that would happen, he would have no control of it. He's not that strong. This would go. That would go first. The gag is he's pulling himself up. So we have to sell that first. In 4 frames, there's no way he'd have control of his body. So we're sort of jonesing the joke here.
Essentially what I'm working on is the visual interpretation of the way our blind superhero Daredevil sees. He uses echolocation like a bat or a dolphin, and he essentially sees aurally. So we need to convey what he hears or sees to the audience visually, and the way we're doing that is a series of shots called Shadow World.
In terms of trying to get something that's digitally created inside a computer to look real, it's all about time. So when you start getting down to 2 months, a month, 2 weeks, that's when it starts to get very hairy, because no matter how great your ideas are and how sharp you are and intuitive you are about what it takes to make it look better, you're now running out of time. Typically, you'll either run out of time, and typically you'll do both. You'll run out of time, you'll run out of money. But either one is just as devastating, because if shots take the time they take.